If you are the kind of person who loves spontaneity and impromptu learning in your homeschool, but you hate some of the chaos that sometimes comes along with it, this video is for you. Hi everyone, I'm Pam Barnhill, and I have helped thousands of homeschoolers create doable systems, beat burnout, and bring more joy to their homeschool day. If you watched last week's video, you heard me explain the 4 different types of homeschool moms, and I even asked you to go ahead and identify which type you might be. And if you haven't watched that video, I'm going to link that for you right up here so you can go watch it. This week, we're going to start breaking down each one of those 4 different kinds of moms and see if we can help her with some of the struggles that she might be having with her homeschooling and most specifically her homeschool planning. I'm just going to say everybody needs a friend like Carefree Kathy in their lives. Kathy is the kind of homeschooler that is going to come up with all the fun field trips, all the great activities for you to do. And she's going to take some of the people who might not be as willing to get out and encourage them to come out and have a good time. Kathy loves spontaneity, she loves rabbit trails, and she loves all of those real life learning activities. And she's not really a huge fan of homeschool planning because she feels like it's going to restrict her freedom and it's going to make her homeschooling less enjoyable. The problem is, though, what Kathy often finds herself up against is the great activity will end, this series of classes that they're doing or some of the spontaneous activities that they've been indulging in will end. And then it's like, oh my goodness, I've got to come up with something else for us to do. There's kind of this lull in homeschooling. And so she finds herself scrambling on the weekends to plan out the next week. And so she either ends up planning everything on the weekend or trying to plan everything on the weekend when she would really rather be having fun with her family, or not having something to do for days at a time. And I have to tell you, this used to be me. For a while, we were very interest-led homeschoolers when my kids were little, and we would get to the end of my kids' interest in a topic, and we would flounder for a couple of weeks until I made time to figure out the next thing we were going to do. So even though I loved following their interests, I felt guilty a lot of the times at the floundering that we were doing, or that I would have to sit and spend a lot of my time on the weekends planning things out. And this can be frustrating because when there's nothing for your kids to do, the daily chaos escalates. Maybe you feel just a little bit more stress. Maybe your kids don't feel as satisfied because they want a little bit more structure. I find that this happens sometimes. And you don't feel like you get to spend enough time with your kids because you're scrambling, seeking out the next great activity. And also sometimes there's a fear that all of the core educational subjects aren't always going to get covered. So how can we balance this out? How can we make a plan for those core subjects and the times that we don't have a rabbit trail to follow in such a way that it doesn't stifle the spontaneity and creativity that we love in our homeschooling? So what we teach you and put your homeschool year on autopilot is to build yourself a structured yet flexible framework. And so this does mean that you plan ahead. And what we do is we call it planning for the good days. So on those good days, and in Carefree Kathy's situation, it's not that the days are hard or easy. It's more that the days are, oh, we have something fun we want to do, or we have some time at home and we really need something to do. So for those days that you have time at home and you really need something to do, there's not something spontaneous and fabulous and wonderful going on, have a plan, have a list of the things you are willing to do. And then also have a plan of basics. Have a plan of things that you want to get done maybe every week. Every week, we want to make sure that we get at least 3 math lessons or 4 math lessons done. Every week, we want to make sure that we get at least 3 or 4 phonics lessons done, maybe 2 or 3 spelling lessons done. And know what those lessons are and have them sitting and waiting, and have that be your goal. But the thing is, when all the fabulous spontaneity and rabbit trails have run out for a little bit, you have something to fall back on. You have something planned out that you can do. This really, really supports this idea of spontaneous learning. And you can go and do all the fun things without guilt because you are building that foundation of basics. And in Put Your Homeschool Year on Autopilot, we teach you to plan in lists as opposed to dated grids. So you have this list of possibilities, this list of things all planned out that you can do. And we have a couple of different kind of lesson planning lists that we teach you how to use. Some are a little more detailed than others, so just depending on the amount of detail you wanted to put into your lesson plan. But all of that stuff is waiting for you with no dates on it when you are absolutely ready to do it. And so when the rabbit trail calls, you can go off down the rabbit trail. But when it's time to reel it back in, you have something sitting there waiting on you to do. Lisa Barman is one of our Autopilot homeschool moms, and she likens the style of planning that Autopilot taught her to improvisational dancing. So she was an improvisational dancer when she was young, and she says in improv, there's often this structure or limit that supports and even enlivens the dance itself. There's this clear boundary, and those boundaries or suggestions are what allows you the creativity to make these beautiful improvisational dances. And I just love that analogy. She says that's what Autopilot does for her, is it provides the framework for her more spontaneous homeschooling. So if you are looking for a more relaxed homeschool environment, I would like you to imagine that environment where you can still do all of your spontaneous activities without the chaos that comes from not knowing what to do on the days when there are no spontaneous activities to do. And so what I'd like for you to do is come on over and check out Put Your Homeschool Year on Autopilot. This is the framework you need to support the fun, spontaneous learning in your homeschool and eliminate the overwhelm and chaos. Now, don't forget, I will be back next week. Next week, we're going to be talking about Best Intention Becky and all about her planning style. And let me know in the comments down below, do you think you are a Carefree Kathy, and would having a little bit of structure to your spontaneity help you out?